with some of these, we look fine. We look okay. And one of the sayings is, I'm not pretending to be sick. I'm pretending to be healthy.
Sound check. Check one, check two.
Because it's a real thing.
It's a real thing.
It's not, folks are not making this up.
No.
These are not easy conditions to live with.
I want to recognize and acknowledge that much of our strategic response to these conditions now is very, very much one of pragmatism and strength-based approach. It's firstly acknowledging that these conditions are in play, and then responding in that really pragmatic, well, let's look at making the adjustments, sitting down if necessary, but also being prepared to, because I can appreciate that people watching this would be going, yeah, but what can I actively do to, where are the answers? And the answers are in part, and I don't want to be trivial in saying this, but they are in part informed by the singer's resilient response to say, I'm going to adjust some of my expectations around what my voice will do, not just from this point forward, but today compared to yesterday, compared to tomorrow. Do you have any other practical insights and ideas, what you've observed your students do that have been really positive for them?
Yeah, I mean, everybody's different, right?
Yeah.
We do, Marita and I put together, if you don't mind, we have kind of a list that we found. Teachers need to watch out for compensations, right?
Yes.
And just notice if something is getting tweaked a little bit more.
Yeah.
It's not uncommon for MTD to come out of hypermobile singers.
Yeah.
And it's probably in an effort to find some kind of feeling of stability.
MTD
so I know that's
being
kind of
muscle tension dysphonia.
And we do also need to know when to refer to
absolutely
medical care. Mindfulness is really important in both these conditions, is to keep yourself calm, slow body movement like Tai Chi. And I'm going to mention yoga, but yoga has to be very modified because yoga is often about going as stretchy as you can, and hypermobile people need to keep it in the middle. Swimming is good, as we talked about earlier, Dan. Pilates is good for POTS because you do it on your back.
Yeah.
May not be for everybody, but it's one of the things that's mentioned. Light resistance bands for proprioception, very, very stretchy ones, but maybe wrapped around the torso or the belly or the upper ribs, just so folks can feel more what their bodies are doing. I remember when I first was looking into POTS, there was a woman in a Facebook group that said she was doing like cabaret sets. And she said, I found that if I wear a corset, I can get one more set. So having something like a Spanx type, what would you call it? When I was young, we called them girdles.
I think we've covered the three terms that I think everyone would be aware of. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So just that can help actually with circulation, but also provides some stability.
Yeah.
Physically.
Yeah. So
that I thought that was totally worth repeating.
Absolutely. I love that one because it's so
right.
That's so
simple
to do for most people, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it may not help everybody. Now sometimes people wear compression stockings. That's a POTS thing. That can help. For POTS, hydration and salty snacks should always be available to them.
Yeah.
That's just an important accommodation. Sitting, we talked about that. This is what's kind of an interesting one. Repertoire choices. It was suggested somewhere that finding music that exploits a singer's communicative ability and emotional connection versus showing everything we can possibly do with our voice. That I'm just going to throw that out there.
Can I
practice that?
Can I suggest that's actually not a bad piece of advice for every singer?
That's right. I agree. We got to have those pieces, right?
Yeah,
Kind of
absolutely.
like, I'm not feeling great today. I'm going to say,
This is
sing.
what I'm going to communicate with you. I'm going to do it within an octave, but I'm going to communicate.
That's okay. Right. Also, practice guides. A lot of these are, you'll say, well, that's for everybody, but spaced, shorter practice sessions.
Yeah.
Not hour and a half at a time, but 20, 30 minutes, a little bit
Yes.
later in the day.
Yes.
And then if they're tired for whatever reason, at least they got one 20 to 30 minute practice in. And
Yes.
that other one, then that's okay. We won't do that other one. Because we can do mental practice. It's documented. Mental practice is good practice, and memorization work, translation work for some of us. For people that are in productions, I think it's particularly important, I would say, maybe even more so for people that have pots, is to have a cover or a cast, so that if they're having a rough day, that other person can take over for them. Flexible creative staging. Why can't a director have us sit down every once in a while? These, just kind of common sense things.
Yeah.
Teach our singers how to mark. Do we still do that? Do we teach them how to mark? Go down an octave instead of full on singing all the time.
Yeah.
Use of amplification I learned this from one of the teachers that I talked about, because I always use amplification when I lecture in my classes. So just to save the voice somewhat.
Yeah.
If there is a voice difficulty that continues, what do you tell? 2 to 3 weeks? That's not resolving?
2 to 3 weeks, get it looked at.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and maybe even earlier for these folks,
Yeah.
particularly maybe the hypermobile folks,
Yeah.
because that injury can happen more often.
Yes.
And then just so much of this has to come from the singer. My student did a beautiful senior recital during COVID, and it was still when some of the singers were recording themselves, and she learned how to do video photography of herself. She pre-recorded the music and the songs with her pianist, and she picked all the songs to reflect something about what it was like to live with an invisible health condition. And it was absolutely stunning. Absolutely stunning. And she learned things from doing this, and not, it was a different kind of hard.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
To do that in the long run versus, doing the stand up in front of the piano and sing for
Yeah.
an hour.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think I had some. Are those helpful?
Oh, so very helpful.